tom vysílání jakoby teď. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Brno Expat Centre. Before we get started, Brno Expat Centre is a public office of the city of Brno to help international professionals who came to live and work in Brno, so typically employees. At the same time, we are happy to support the international business persons, or more specifically self-employed individuals, the physical people, not companies, but physical individuals who do work from the Czech Republic, who have a business license or not, but who are self-employed and who provide services in the Czech Republic or very frequently internationally as well. And this is typical. You can be in the Czech Republic and you can have your clients anywhere in the world. Now to the topic of today, we have invited Jana Střelická, who is tax advisor working with Auditor, a company not only in Brno and the Czech Republic. But Jana, tell us more about what do you do, what's your expertise, and what about your company?
Okay, thank you for introduction. Hello everybody. I'm tax advisor. I'm doing taxes for 20 years already. Our company, Auditor, is seated here in Brno, but we also have offices in Prague, in Bratislava, Vienna, and also in other cities. And in my work, I focus a lot on corporate income tax, personal income tax aspects, across also international aspects of these taxes, including VAT. VAT, value-added tax, which is the topic for today.
You will hear that a lot. So VAT is value-added tax, an acronym we've been using today a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the topic for today concerns a very small group of our clients, so the freelancers, not only freelancers who are in the Czech Republic for customers in the Czech Republic, but freelancers who provide services from the Czech Republic to other EU countries or who buy services from any other countries outside of the Czech Republic. And we will answer the questions today about when to register for VAT. So what is the situation when I have to start doing some responsibilities about that, how to do that, so what are the tools, what are the websites, and how to submit the regular forms on a basis of the transactions that have been happening across the borders. At the end, Jana has some more practical tips how to communicate with the financial office, and of course we'll have time for questions and answers. So as we do the presentation that will take next up to 30 minutes, you are welcome to post, to type your questions already in comments of this webinar. At the end, we will read and answer your questions. So let's get started. So let's start from a general perspective. So what is the value-added tax anyway? Why do we have to pay it, and who must pay it?
Okay, VAT, as you said, it stands for value-added tax. Added tax means that it's added on each step of production and sales cycle. This is why it is called the value-added tax. And this is indirect tax compared to, for example, income tax that you know that you need to pay from your income. This tax is also paid by you, but you are not responsible for collection of this tax. Collection of this tax, we buy it in the price of products. When I go to the store, I have to pay price including VAT, but the one who pays it to the tax office and then to state budget, which is significant part of state budget, this VAT, is the supplier. Is the store needs to collect the VAT from my purchase and send it to the tax office.
So the VAT is included in any my purchase. I go to the store and I buy any products, any groceries, and the VAT is already included and I pay it without even knowing how much is the extra VAT.
Yep. We know that in the Czech Republic it's 21%, which is extra. It is quite significant amount, quite significant part of state budget in all over the world. That is why it is very much regulated, not only on state level, but also on the level of European Union, which we will learn today, how to treat these cross-border transactions.
And this was consumer. So, but when I am a business person, I have to charge it at some point, or I have to report it that I've provided some service.
Yes,
And this is
exactly.
what we'll talk about today. So should I watch this webinar? Like, who is this intended for once again?
Yes, you should watch it. Everybody who is here today, I believe that you made the assessment that you need to be aware of VAT because you are freelancer. Freelancer is somebody who is doing business as a self-employed person, not as employee. If you are employee, receiving income as employee, you do not need to care about VAT. But if you are doing independent activity based on trade license, then you need to care about VAT. Regardless whether it's your main activity or secondary activity next to your employment, you need to care about that. And VAT is very broad, but we focus on the most common situations that we come across when it comes to Czech freelancers with Czech trade license providing services cross-border. Because in these situations, a lot of people think that they do not need to care about VAT because they are saying, I'm below the threshold. I believe you might be aware that there is threshold of 2 million until which you do not need to register, but this threshold is calculated only on local level. If you do services abroad, you need to report this transaction, and for that you need to be registered. So if you are a freelancer, you did not do anything about VAT yet, and you provide services abroad, you should watch it.
And in which situation I do not have to be concerned about the VAT. So let's say I have a friend and who teaches Spanish to his student in Spain. He lives here, but his online classes and his student is in Spain.
Okay, it depends on the position of the client. If it's private individual, this is so-called B2C transaction, business to client. And if on the other side, if your customer is private individual abroad or in the Czech Republic, you do not need to care. You just need to care about the threshold of 2 million. And before
in 1 year of overall turnover.
For the past 12 months.
Yeah, so to my students, I do not charge, I do not report the VAT in Spain.
Exactly.
But if I provide a service to a company who is a translation agency in Spain?
This is so-called B2B transaction, business to business. In this case, I need to report this transaction because in European Union, there is one basic rule which is important to understand the concept of VAT, is to understand that VAT is paid in the country where is the customer of my service, but only for those B2B services. So if I'm charging to business in Spain, I charge without VAT because VAT needs to be paid in Spain.
Excuse me. Now, so I have to start thinking about the VAT in this typical situation. I do not have to consider it when I do provide sales of products, when I'm selling some products or buying some products, physical products?
If it comes to goods, the rules in VAT are much more complicated than in respect of services. So I would disregard it for today because it's more complicated area and we can cover it in some next webinar. Today, let's concentrate only on provision or receipt of services cross-border.
So what would be the first step? So what do I have to be identified? How do I know if I am a VAT when I become the VAT identified?
So when to register? This is the we already mentioned that you need to care about VAT once you have your trade license or you are planning to have your trade license. And if you are doing these specific transactions which are stated on this slide, A or B, you are providing those B2B services to some EU business partner, or if you are purchase services, again from business to business, because you are business, so B2B services from abroad, and not only EU, but also from third country, for example from UK, then there is obligatory registration as so-called VAT identified person.
VAT identified person. So this is a technical term.
Yes.
I might become a VAT identified person. How is it different from the VAT payer?
Yeah, a lot of people, they know the term VAT payer. VAT payer is full VAT payer on full VAT obligations on all taxable activities. VAT identified person, we can call it sometimes as a half VAT payer.
Or light, I've heard.
Or light. It's light version of VAT registration. For cross-border transactions, I act as a VAT payer, but for local transactions, I act as a non-VAT payer. So the good advantage is that I have only limited obligations, which is good for me. I do not need to report every month like VAT payer. But on the other hand, there might be some disadvantages. One of them is that I cannot claim input VAT compared to VAT payer.
So VAT payer advantage is I can claim VAT back for the services I bought, but at the same time I have to charge the VAT, so all my services are more expensive. And for the typical services, we are talking about some IT services, some consultations, teaching, it's 21%.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
So that makes a difference, definitely, yes. So again, in more detail about the situation, when I the first time become an identified person. What are the steps and how do I register technically?
Mm-hmm. So once I know I need to register, those were those situations A and B, provision of B2B services to EU or receipt of services from abroad. Receipt of services from abroad means that you, for example, buy advertisement from Google or from Facebook, and you are charged quite small amount from these companies, but they are charged to you as a business person. And as I said, the rule for paying VAT in the European Union is in the country where is the recipient, and I'm the recipient, so I need to pay that VAT, or I need to declare this transaction. So, but once I know I need to register, I need to do it technically. And how to do it technically? I need to find out the right registration form. It is quite easy to find it on web portal Moje daně, My Taxes, where you can fill in the form and submit it directly via that web portal, authorizing the submission with your access details to your data box. Everybody who is a freelancer in the Czech Republic has data box.
Obligatory, yes. If you are not aware, if you are becoming self-employed, you have to have a data mailbox, and it's set up to you automatically by the government once you open the trade license, and you have to know what's your login and your password. And the login and password from your data mailbox, datová schránka, you can use the same one for logging into this Moje daně portal. This is the official portal of the Financial Office, the Ministry of Finance, for all communications regarding your taxes. So datová schránka login is useful for Moje daně portal, and that's all our guides that we will sharing with you today. The first one is coming now in the comments about how to register as identified persons. Needs you to have data mailbox login and go to mojedanie.cz website, and then step by step you can follow our guides that we prepared with Jana to first register as identified person and receive your VAT identification number. Yes,
this is the result of registration that you receive to your data box, because data box is used by tax office to communicate with you. Sometimes they call, sometimes they write email, but the most common and actually the right communication is via data box. So you will receive decision on a registration to your data box, where is stated your VAT ID number. It is actually the same number that you use also for personal income tax. If you file your personal income tax return, you file it under your, for Czech people, it is birth number, but once you are registered for VAT, it has like a higher level, this identification number, which is used also for VAT purposes. There is a register of VAT payers where it is possible to check. Also your partners from EU, you can check it on the portal whether this VAT ID number is valid for VAT purposes.
So again, the option A, I'm providing you the services to the other country. Let's say I have a company in Germany, I do some software programming and they buy my services, and each month I either send them an invoice or they just pay me the agreed sum of the money. So I declare this and I do not pay the VAT in this case?
Yes, because we remember correctly the rule where the VAT needs to be paid. It needs to be paid in Germany because this is the country where is my customer. So, but why I need to be registered if I do not pay any VAT? The reason is that I need to report in EU system, I need to report VAT number of my business partner in Germany saying that I provided services in the value of 10,000 euros in this particular month, and it is cross-checked whether my business partner in Germany paid German VAT on receipt of this service.
And the option B, I'm buying the services and I report again and I do pay the VAT?
In this case, we need to pay. I need to pay the VAT because I'm a recipient in the Czech Republic and VAT needs to be paid in the Czech Republic. So in this case, I not only report that transaction that I received from Google, Facebook, but I also need to pay VAT in the Czech Republic.
But we said only if I use the service for my business. So how does the provider know that I'm buying it as a physical individual privately, or if I'm buying the service for my business?
It depends what I tell him when I'm purchasing the service, because the provider doesn't know for what I need my space on. I'm purchasing on Google some space, if it's for my private purposes or for my economic purposes. So if I provide in the purchase order my VAT number, it is clear that it is B2B business, B2B transaction. If I do not provide my VAT number, it is considered B2C transaction. And in that case, Facebook would charge already VAT on my invoice. So I actually have to pay it anyway, but it's already within the price of the service purchased.
All right, so hopefully the system is clear by now, or clearer than it was at the beginning. Now let's go more to like these specifics. So how to register, how to fill in the reports to the tax office, and then what are the difference, the scenario A and the B. So how do I report to the financial office?
So depending on the scope of my transactions, whether I only provide services to EU or if I only purchasing from, and I emphasize, not only from EU but also from abroad, UK, Switzerland, US. Or I can do in a single month, I can have both transactions. So it depends whether I file only so-called EC sales list, souhrnné hlášení. This is for the situation A, I provide services abroad, or if I'm purchasing, I will file VAT return, přiznání k DPH. I do
when?
not. When? The deadline is the 25th day of the following month, because taxable period in VAT in the Czech Republic is calendar month. So I do not report every transaction. I take all transactions within the calendar month and then report them in a single form.
Doesn't matter, is it more transaction with one client or several clients with one transaction?
It is only one report for that particular month, and
for all clients and
for
all
clients, all transactions, exactly. And of course, submission, as I already mentioned, must be done electronically because of that cross-check within European Union. It must be done electronically.
So this the scenario A, so-called EC sales list,
Mm-hmm.
is the case when I'm providing the services and my business client is in another EU country. So let's say as of today, end of October, I am providing my services of translator to a company in Germany. So when do I have to submit the first EC sales list, report these services and transactions?
So if these are services provided in October, it's enough to issue one invoice for the whole month, or I can issue two invoices for first half of the month, second half of the month.
As we
It's
agree.
up to me, but the latest point is end of the month. And services for October, I will report in October EC sales list, which must be submitted within 25th day after the end of October, which is 25th November. If it's weekend, it will be the first working day after the weekend. I submit it electronically, as I mentioned, and actually in this EC sales list, we have that step-by-step guide again. You will see it's very simple form. You just need to report information that are included on your invoice. VAT number of your customer and value of the supply. It must be reported in Czech crowns, but you most probably would charge your service in euros. In that case, you need to recalculate it to Czech crowns for these reporting purposes using exchange rate of Czech National Bank.
But if my client is in UK or Canada?
I do not need to care about that because European Union does not care. Our rule is that VAT should be paid in the country of the customer. If it's in the third country, European Union does not care whether VAT will be paid there or not, because not all third countries they have the same VAT system as we have in EU.
Yeah, and again, in the comments you will find a link to how to report EU services for VAT with the screenshots and a step-by-step where to find it on the website, how to fill in all the boxes correctly and submit the electronic form directly to the financial office, all from home. You don't have to go anywhere. And the option B, again, the vice versa. I'm buying the services from anywhere in the world. In this case, I'm from UK or Canada,
US, yes.
or Brazil or anywhere else.
Yeah, here we care because European Union knows that VAT needs to be paid in the country of customer, which is in our case Czech Republic. So VAT needs to be paid here, regardless whether it's from EU or third country. And so this is the situation B. We need to not only report the transaction that I purchased something, but the reason why I need to report it here is to pay VAT in the Czech Republic. So,
And
again,
how do I pay?
We pay it to the tax office via bank transfer. We need to self-charge the VAT because on the invoice from my business partner there is no VAT. So I will just calculate it. I do not need to put it on the invoice in the accounting. I just need to calculate it correctly in VAT return. It is very simple form. You will see it in the guide. You will include again value of the transaction, for example, 1,000 euro recalculated to Czech crowns, and 21% from that from value of that purchased supply. And this VAT needs to be paid to the tax office via bank transfer.
But it's in a different system, different step. I do not report it, the VAT return, and pay at the same time in moje daně.
The deadline for submission and payment is the same, 25th day of the following month. So if I would purchase some Google Aid in October, I would receive invoice, let's say in November, but the service was received in October. I need to report it in October VAT return, and by 25th November I need to pay it to the tax office.
And how do I learn the bank account of the tax office?
You need to know to which tax office you belong. If you are living in Brno, you definitely belong to tax office for South Moravian region. In Brno we have also 4 local offices, but the competent tax office is tax office for South Moravian region, and each tax office has its own bank account number, which is stated under that link, again will be provided in the comments. And there must be prefix 705, which stands for VAT. And also very important and quite frequently forgotten by people is to identify the payment, so the tax office knows that I was the one who paid that, and the identification, the variable code will be your VAT ID number without CZ.
And for international use, I always use the VAT identification number with the two-letter country code. Right. Okay, so there was A and the B. That's clear. Is there still anything else? I reported the transactions. When I bought the service, I paid the VAT in the Czech Republic, so I'm all done and all should be closed for now.
Yeah, generally you are done, unless there is some issue with your submission. Sometimes submission does not need to be valid. For example, you did not authorize it with your, you did not send it correctly, or there might be some discrepancy. For example, you would do mistake in your VAT ID number of your business partner. Sometimes it is not valid. You should always check it in the system that it is valid, the VAT number which is provided from my business partner, that it's valid. So sometimes there might be some discrepancy, or tax office will just choose me for verification of data. They can request the invoice that I issue. They can request payment confirmation, and important is to respond these requests of tax office, even if it comes in Czech language, because this is official language for tax proceedings. It will come in Czech language. I need to respond.
So that would be maybe the hard part when they mail me in Czech. So of course the logical question, who can help me with that? Can you help me? And of course, like, you are professional, so how much do you charge?
Definitely we can help. We charge based on time spent with the task, but if it's simple task, we can deal with it only on the phone. I do not have problem if you contact me via email or via phone to respond these basic questions. Of course, we can also provide services from VAT registration, VAT compliance. We can do filings based on power of attorney, so you do not need to care about these obligations at all. You only provide on a monthly basis those support documents. So we can cover this also based on some fixed fee, but it's individual. We need to agree on the scope of your transactions.
Okay, so this would be the end of the presentation. Hopefully we made it easier to understand the VAT across borders. Definitely not all the VAT, because what it's in for the purchases and for sales in the Czech Republic and the total turnover, and it can get really more complicated, and that's really for an individual assessment of your situation. It might be beneficial or not for each of you. So now is the time for questions. We are ready to read your questions once posted in the comments under the video. Let's see if there are any. We can still give you a minute to write or finish typing. And of course, you can contact us or contact Jana individually anytime later. So you can as well see the contact details on the screen, on the website, the email address and the telephone number. So feel free to contact us directly, and we still can allow a little more time to wait for questions typed right now, so we can answer them.
Yeah, definitely part of this webinar that we did not want to overwhelm you with information are those step-by-step guides, how to fill in the form for VAT registration, how to fill in EC sales list, VAT return. So you will see, and we really encourage you to watch these detailed guides which lead you step by step, because once you try it for the first time, it might be difficult because the form has a lot of rows, but relevant in your case will be only 1 or 2 rows in those forms. So we encourage you to try it on your own, but with our guide, which I believe is very helpful, and if not, always you can.
If you run into trouble filing the forms, again, you can contact us directly, or even come to the Brno Expat Centre office in person, so we can look at it together. Okay, so there is one question about selling the products. So let's say I have some handcrafts or books, and I want to sell it to my clients as part of my other business, or just this is my main my main product. So what do I have to do in that case?
Okay, so this is not a service, this is a selling of goods. And here, and again, I'm thinking about selling cross-border. If I would be selling it in the Czech Republic, no issues until I reach turnover of 2 million for past 12 calendar months. From the 1st January, 2 million will continue to be valid, but it will be calculated for the calendar year. There will be change from 1st January 2025. But if I'm selling goods abroad, then it depends who is my customer. If I have business partner on the other side registered for VAT, I would sell it without VAT because again VAT will be paid in the country of consumption, which is the country of recipient. Again, I would fill in EC sales list. I would just choose different code for this supply, not service, but goods, and no VAT is due. But if my customer is private individual, for example, I'm teaching languages, online languages, and I produce book and I send it to my private individual in Spain, then it depends on the total sales of these books in EU. If it's below the certain threshold, which is 10,000 euros for here calendar year, I do not charge VAT on that. Once it is over, I need to register in that country because VAT needs to be paid there, and I cannot transfer this obligation to private individual. He does not know what is VAT. Okay? I can transfer VAT obligation only to business partner.
To professionals.
So
and the threshold is 10,000 euro for all countries.
For all countries
outside of Czech Republic.
Yes.
In one calendar year.
Yes.
All right. So there is a question from our viewers. Sanya is asking about who pays the VAT when I provide service to my foreign clients, me or the client.
So if you are a Czech freelancer providing service, and to foreign clients here, I would emphasize only to foreign client from EU, then the VAT needs to be paid in the country of the customer. We know that. It will be paid in Spain, let's say. And who pays it? Your customer, because he's the one to whom I can transfer the obligation to pay VAT in his country using VAT rate which is valid in Spain. Okay, so the client is responsible. If your client is businessman, business to business, then he is responsible for payment of VAT from that transaction.
I don't need to check if they paid, but I have to report that I provided a service and how much was the invoice.
Yes, exactly. I need to fill in that EC sales list in which I identify my customer via his VAT number valid in Spain. So it is checked that it was paid in Spain.
And Sanya has a follow-up question. So I need to pay VAT if I go to the country of my client, let's say Slovenia, and provide consultations in person. So I am Czech registered business person, but I go to Slovenia and I provide the services in Slovenia.
For services, you do it based on your Czech trade license. Of course, it is assumed you need to travel for some personal consultations. So regardless from where the service is provided, in simple words, but for VAT we do not care from where it is provided. We care about the position of the customer. So if you go to Slovenia, have the personal consultation there, you still charge your service without Czech VAT, because you report Slovenian VAT number of your customer and he needs to pay VAT in Slovenia using VAT rate valid in Slovenia.
Okay, next question from Miguel. I don't know if I missed the information. I provide services to companies on other EU countries. I always include the VAT info on the invoices, but always as a 0%, as I've never reached the 2 million Czech crowns. I don't need to worry if I'm under that threshold, right?
And this is the most common mistake I'm having in my practice. That threshold of 2 million is valid only for local transactions if the place of supply is in the Czech Republic. Okay? In that case, 2 million counts. But if you do cross-border transaction, then you, regardless of the value, from the first invoice, you need to report it via EC sales list. You do not charge VAT, you do it correctly, you stay 0 VAT. What is very important information that you need to include on the invoice is that there is a reverse charge. The VAT is paid by the customer. Of course, you need to know his VAT number, and this VAT number you report in EC sales list, so it's checked that it was paid in EU. I assume you do not mention that in your question, but I understand that, yeah, you provide services to companies. Companies, we assume that these are always business to business. So you do it correctly, you charge without VAT, but what you are missing is submission of EC sales list.
So you don't pay, but you have to report the transactions, as we have explained. So there was the option A, you have to register as identified person pretty much immediately if you provided services within 15 days. And then after the end of the month, when you received the money for the invoice, within 25 days, you fill in the EC sales list and report who was your client and their VAT identification number. And they have to pay the VAT.
Mm-hmm. Probably you might have issued several invoices without submission of this EC sales list, but later or sooner, via that cross-check, which really is done on a regular basis within the European Union, it will be found out that you are missing that submission, because it really, the transaction needs to match within EU.
Well, but if I didn't report it and the client didn't do anything about it and didn't pay the VAT?
But there is his obligation to pay. I would wonder if the company in EU would not report this transaction for VAT purposes, because they definitely have
That's
your
a tax
service.
Avoidance, and they might come into big troubles.
There is problem for them if they do not report it for VAT purposes. For you, there is no such a big risk, because you do not owe any tax on this. You just need to fulfill this registration obligation, and also there are fines assessed by tax office for non-compliance with this also registration and filing obligations, even if no VAT is due.
And have you experienced such fines? How much are those?
It can be, there is no strict fine like for late payment of taxes. There is strict fine for that, but it can be assessed on individual basis depending how long you do not do these reporting obligations, what is the value of transaction, and so on. We cannot say that we did not know the rule. This is not the answer for the tax office.
Mm.
We as a freelancers, we need to be aware of these VAT obligations. And I experienced that a lot of freelancers are addressing that 2 million limit, but it's really only for local transactions.
So maybe an eye-opener for many. All right, so welcome. Thank you for joining us, for your questions. There are no more comments. So this video will be available on our website as well, so you can get back to it. And of course, the online step-by-step guides are available on the website. And if you need any more help, then get back to us. Looking forward until the next webinar or any other event of the Brno Expat Centre. Please follow our newsletter and sign up for the newsletter, so each month you get updated invitations or links to useful guides such as about VAT. So thank you, Jana, again. We keep in touch. Jana is our expat-friendly business service as well, and helping our clients.
Yeah, we'll be happy to answer your questions if you have in the future.
So have a good evening and bye-bye.
Okay, goodbye.